My name is Marcelia Henry. I am the Secretary General for UNESCO and will be your MC for these 2 days of sessions. Protocol to be established. The Honorable Minister, Patrice Gomes, Minister of Rami. I want to also acknowledge Mr. Eric Vault, Director of UNESCO Regional Office for the Caribbean, who will be joining us virtually. Mr. Bandiagu Dayawara. All right, I got that. Head of Natural Sciences Sector, UNESCO Kingston. Ms. Telka Wallace, Map Focal Point and Coordinator of St. Mary's Biosphere Reserve. Members of the National MAB, National Committee, representatives of Nature Foundation, the Ministry of Rami from TIAT, who will be assisting us with today's presentations as well, distinguished presenters, partners, participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure on behalf of the Sint Maarten UNESCO National Commission to welcome you to the workshop for the creation of a Man and Biosphere Reserve in Sint Maarten. Over the next 2 days, we will gather as a diverse group of experts, stakeholders, to move forward on a vision that has long been important to Sint Maarten. The workshop marks a significant moment for Sint Maarten as we explore potential of joining UNESCO's global network of biosphere reserves. You will be guided by experts in these various areas as it relates to biodiversity, man and biosphere establishments, etc. We are honored to have the experience of Ms. Talca Wallace from the St. Kitts and Nevis, I would say St. Kitts and Nevis, our sister island next door, who will be sharing the experiences on how they were able to get St. Mary's Biosphere Reserve to become one of the few biospheres within the Caribbean region. So we look forward to learning from her during this session. The focus of the workshop is collaboration, and through working groups, opening discussions, presentation, key topics such as spatial planning and fisheries, we will work collectively to shape the roadmap to developing Sint Maarten's first biosphere reserve. Your presence, your engagement reflects your dedication to learn more about this project and also to be part of this process.
Sustainable development. I can't begin to tell you the amount of times I've used this term to describe my approach to growth, only to have it be understood that I was against development. What has happened? We have boiled development down to mean buildings. That is, concrete underground equals progress, equals money. Apologies. Concrete underground equals money, and of course, money equals progress. And don't get me wrong, I don't define sustainable development as living in a hut and riding a bicycle. But, as I stated just last week, development is less about what we build and more about how we build and who it serves. Therefore, sustainable development is an approach to development not in extreme, but a balanced and a responsible use of resources that ensures, at minimum, reasonable allocation for all without compromising equity, note I did not say equality, and most importantly, safeguarding these resources for future generations. Simply said, it is not enough to have all the hotels in the world, but have poor quality of air, poor quality of roads, or a population unable to afford the promised benefits of tourism to pay for basics like education, healthcare, and utilities. Now, Let's park the theories for just a second, and let's get down to how do we translate all this academic stuff into what concerns most of the world, and especially developing countries like ours in the Caribbean. Sustainable development, while generally focusing on protecting the environment, must be seen by the population at large as protecting the ecosystem to which the natural environment, that is, the trees, the ponds, the endangered species, forms a part. But in order to truly get buy-in, we need to shift the narrative more towards humans as part and parcel of that ecosystem. Why? Because by nature, we are selfish. Humans will fight to survive. In recognizing ourselves as part of that same ecosystem, affected by both the positive and the negative, the inner question arises, at least for most, why would I do something that would adversely affect me in 3, 10, or even 50 years? The short-term gains from the destruction of the natural environment don't outweigh the long-term negative impact if development continues to be defined by economics, instead of how development is done, and of course, who it serves. Let us not be the catalysts of our own destruction, both from an economic and existential point of view. The man in the biosphere recognizes this symbiotic, codependent relationship between human and human's impact on the environment, the space it occupies. Through its mission to improve human livelihoods and safeguard natural and managed ecosystems, the program presents several options towards conservation and protection. Over the course of the last year, the government of Sint Maarten, through the Ministry of Public Housing, Spatial Planning, Environment and Infrastructure, and of course its wonderful civil servants, has worked in earnest to shift that approach in defining development and promote not merely in theory, but also in practice, the value of sustainable development. The recognition of 2 new areas for full legal designation as areas for conservation and protection are steps towards finding balance and harmony among the beautiful resorts and condominiums that bring in much needed revenue for government and people. Of course, it is not enough to only designate. One of the greatest challenges for small islands is capacity, which directly impacts our ability to enforce and to protect. To that end, the ministry has focused on legislation and policies, including a soon-to-be-introduced Environmental Impact Fund, reinforcement of proper permitting processes and guidelines, and stronger alignments with NGOs and developers, and the creation of strong public-private partnerships. In so doing, our aim is to ensure that these initiatives are not merely written on paper, but really that these sites are true to their designation. Finally, I want to stress the importance of education and awareness building. The designation of sites, while important for tourism and the economy, must first and foremost be driven by our own recognition of their value to us, those that live day to day with these sites. So in closing, I want to encourage all of you during the course of this week to be bold, challenge the establishment, don't be afraid to protect. Let's work together to make a stronger, more resilient, and sustainable Sint Maarten. Thank you.